This is one video in a series of videos that show how to use Oracle Apex 5 to build a working web application, a prototype. It won't be fully featured, but it'll be a working application that uses a database in Oracle XE. There are earlier video series in YouTube for previous versions of Apex. You can work along with the video by getting the scripts that are available at the URL shown here. Be sure and make the URL case sensitive, so put a capital D, not a lowercase d. You can also, as an alternative, request the scripts be emailed by going to the second link and using the contact page to request the scripts. I'm logged in as Carlo, and I'm going to take a second to go to the team development area and go to the to-do list for Carlo. And Carlo needs to revise the report that shows workshops and attendance, and also to revise the report for student team where we see all students and all teams. The situation that we have here, for some of you, you'll be very familiar with this, but others might not be that familiar with the standard way in which you join tables in a relational database. Typically, when you join two tables, if I open up, for example, student and teams, what I'm actually seeing here are only students who have been assigned to teams and only teams that have had students assigned. There are teams without students and there are students without teams, and they don't show up here because we have basically an equi-join, only records from each table that's associated with a record in the other table. So we need to address that. We have in workshop and attendance, I'm seeing workshops and the students who've attended, but there's actually a workshop that nobody has attended and it doesn't show up here. So I need, as Carlo, to address this issue. If I edit this page, which is workshop and attendance, and I look at workshop and attendance over here on the left side, then what I see here on the right hand side is the query that's based on a view that we created earlier. So it's v_workshop_attendance. I cannot invoke Query Builder, which is the graphical interface, once I have the SQL written. What I want to do is go to Object Browser, and I want to go to Views just to take a look at that SQL again. So here we are in Workshop Attendance, and I can see the actual SQL code that underlies the view. And I could manually audit or modify this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate this view using the Query Builder and recreate that report page. So I'm going to do a create view, and this will be view workshop attendance 2, and invoke the Query Builder. So what I want to know here is I want to see the workshops, and I want to see attendance, and I want to see the name of the student that has attended. So far this is what we've done before. I'll connect workshop to workshop ID as a foreign key over in attendances. I will connect student ID to student ID from the student table. I want to see the workshop ID and name. I want to see actually nothing from here. I just want to see the student, let's say user ID, first name, last name. And I'll maybe do team ID. I'll pause the video while I change the aliases, but we need to do something here with the relationships. But while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to modify the aliases. So I have modified the aliases. Now, the key to what we're doing here and why we recreated this query is I need to click on the relationship itself, and then I see options to do a left outer join or a right outer join. And in my experience working here with the query builder, I'm not sure which one to pick. I know when I'm writing to SQL directly, but basically what I do is I click on one of these and I look to see where this little plus sign shows up. And that's not in the right area. You want the plus sign to show up on the side where you might not have a matching record. So we want to show all workshops and there might not be an attendance record. So I want to modify this and have it do the right outer join. Now from here to here, I want to do, again, I'll try the right outer join, and it is working properly because for any attendance record I might not have a student. So now when I run this, just to see the data, to see the output from the query, and I scroll down, I see Get Organized happens to be a workshop without any student that has taken this. So I'll go ahead and click Return and click Next and create this query. Or I'm sorry, create this view. Then I can go back to Application Builder and into my application. Actually, I need to shut that down. And I'm going to create a new report based on that new view. So that'll be a report, and it will be a interactive report. I'll pause the video while I modify the settings here. I've changed the page number to something I can quickly identify, and I've changed the page name and the region name. So I click Next, and in this case I don't want to associate this page with the navigation menu entry. We'll do that later using an existing one. And then I will select my view. Now if I click here, click Next, I'm getting an issue with uniquely identifying each row. I can actually say, no, I don't need that. It depends on the purpose of what you're building, but click No, and now I can create that view. And I can run that view, or run that report. Okay, so now I'm seeing the workshop even though there's nothing associated with it. What I don't have here though is a way to open this, because right now there's no menu item that would open this particular page. I need to go to the Shared Components area and modify the menu navigation so that when we click on this link, instead of taking us to page 28, I want it to take us to page 50. So I'll go to the application, go to Shared Components, go to Navigation Menu, and scroll down and find my Workshops and Attendance menu item, and I can click that and then change the page that this opens. So I'll switch that to 50 and apply those changes. Now that was page 28, and I would want to go back and get rid of that page in the cleanup of this application because that page is not being used. But now when I click on the menu, I can click here and I will see the newly written results of the view and the report that give me workshops, even if there aren't attendees. Now if I come back to the menu and I look at students and teams, the situation that we have here is that there are students without teams and there are teams without students, and we don't see those. So I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm not going to use the query builder. If you'd looked at that, you would have noticed that it gave us a left join and a right join option, and there's a way to deal with that. I'm just going to go in and modify the code without doing a lot to explain the SQL here. So I'm going to select students and teams on the left, and here is my query. And let's see, but it's based on a view, so I need to go modify the view itself. So that's v_students and teams. Go to views, and this will be students and teams. So when I look at the code, this is what I see. And I'll make that a little bit larger. So I'm listing the fields that I want to display in this view, which is the first line. And the tables that we're working with are teams and students. They're just repeating, and this Apex is giving me a table alias, which is exactly the same name as the table name itself. So we're working with teams and with students, and we're joining them in the where clause. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a join that's called a full outer join. So I'm going to modify both the from clause and the where clause. So I'll say, getting rid of that comma, full outer join with students. Teams, full outer join with students. And then I will replace the where with the word on. So if you're not familiar with SQL, you should look at some of the video series about SQL. I'm not really going to try to explain this other than to show you a quick fix for this issue of not seeing students unassigned and teams unassigned. I'll go ahead and save and compile this, and it says it compiled successfully. I'll go ahead and view the data output and move out a little bit. So here I see somebody without a team, Carla Sanchez, and if I scroll down, I guess I might need to go next. Now I'm seeing teams without students assigned. If I come back to my report in the application, we'll try running that report page. And now, again, I modified the underlying view that this report is based on. And so I did not recreate or create a new page for this report. But I'm seeing students without teams, and when I click next, I'm seeing teams without students. So a couple of different ways to approach this using a left join, a one-sided outer join, left or right, and a full outer join. While I'm looking at the student teams report, I want to remind you that what we have here is the classic report without any of the interactive built-in features, as opposed to when I look at something like workshops, where I get this area where I can type in text and do a filter, and I have various other things I can add here. So I want to come back to student and teams, and while I'm here, show you how you could edit this. And I could change the style from classic report to interactive report. And save that and run that. So now I have the ability to type in something like Carl, and I see Carla and Carlos and another Carlos. So I have the ability to use all the nice interactive features built into an interactive report. However, let me point out that you might not want to just automatically switch everything from classic to interactive. If I come to the evaluation, I think it's this one here. So what I've got here is a classic report where I have replaced the evaluator ID with the name of the student, and the same for the evaluatee. If I switch this to classic report, to interactive report, clicking on the body of that region, and I go to interactive report and save and run that, I've lost some of the things that I did in that nice display of student names. Now I can get those back. I can modify this, but I just want to warn you that when you do a quick switch from classic to interactive, the layout of the report itself may change. Why it didn't change over here with student and teams is simply because there were never IDs. That's a user ID. That's like a email address. There was no student ID shown, so what we had showing here was never replaced with the use of an LOV. So that's why it didn't really change any, whereas over here, when I made it interactive, it changed quite a bit. So I'm getting close to the end of this video, but there are two things I want to do. I want to modify the navigation pane over here, and then I want to make some pages public so that they could be accessible to anybody without having to log in. What I want to do is I have this drop-down list under Home, and I want to create a page that will allow me, a menu page essentially, that will allow me to move some of these links into it. And so I'll have two areas. I'll have Home and I'll have like public reports. So what I want to do now is go back to the application and create a page, and I want it to be a blank page this time. And I'm going to call this, remembering that 101 has already been taken, so I'm going to call this 80. And the name of this will be Public Reports. And I'll click Next. And I do want to create a new navigation menu entry, but I do not want to assign a parent. So leave it with no parent selected. And then I click Next and finish that page. I'll run that. And now over here on the left, I have Home and I have Public Reports. I have nothing in Public Reports right now, but I do have them here in Home. So I want to modify this by going to the application and then going to Shared Components and then going to the navigation menu and clicking to see the items that are in the Home navigation. I want to take things like student and teams, and I want to change the parent, and I'm going to change it to Public Report and apply that change. And I'll just do that here for a couple of others. So might not want to do it for evaluation data, that might be sensitive, but I could do workshops and attendance. Maybe that's not a problem, sharing that information. And so the parent will be Public Reports. I'll do one more, and that'll be student information. Go back to my application and run it. And now I have some of the reports listed under Public Reports and some listed under Home. If I want to make these available to the public, then I'm going to make 5 things public, as in no login required. I'm going to start with the home page that everybody comes to and click it. That's page 1. Go to the properties for the page, and I will leave it on the page on the left side and scroll down and locate security. And page requires authentication. We'll change that to page is public and save that. And staying here, I could scroll down, and I want to do the same thing for Public Reports. That's going to be a public page. And scroll down and change the authentication to page is public and save that. Now I'm going to run the application because I start getting confused about the names of the pages. And so what I'll do is from here activate the report page and then edit it this way so I know I've got the right page. So I want this report also to be public. And I'm going to pause the video and do the other 2 and then come back. So I've made edits. I'm going to go back to the home page that I see here. Actually, this isn't going to work for me. I need to get my URL for the application. Let me drag this down. The URL, in this case, it's a local install of Oracle, but it's going to be this set of numbers and letters depending on where you're designing to get to your actual application URL. So I'm going to copy that though and I want to open up a different browser. Because I can't really test whether something is public if I've already logged into Apex. So I've opened a different browser, and I will paste in the URL and then run that. So I see the home page, but if I click on something like projects, I'm being prompted to log in. If I click on public reports, I see that page, and then I can click on the reports listed in that area. So I can click on students and teams, workshop and attendances, and student information. However, if I click the edit here, I'm going to be prompted to log in. So just a quick and easy way to make some things available to the public and other things password protected. This is not necessarily a practical way for setting this up. You might actually want to create a separate application that only contains public pages. But this shows you how you can make a page public. So for the time being, this will be what I'm going to do in this series. I may add a few more things later, but right now this is what I plan to cover in this new Apex 5 series.